everyone. Today I am sitting down with Grace. She pivoted from a traditional path, managing group homes, into launching her shop, Flowers and Stars, which offers consultations and classes in holistic healing and metaphysical modalities such as Reiki, polarity therapy, and astrology. So we're going to break down exactly how she made that pivot and maybe how you can too. So thank you so much for being with us, Grace. I'd love to hear more about your story and what kind of sparked the idea of pivoting and what you were doing before.
Awesome. Thank you, Elaine, so much for having me. I really appreciate it and excited to share a bit about my journey. As you said, I was running group homes in my 20s for people with sort of major mental health challenges at the time. I had graduated college with sociology and English, and it was sort of like a natural path for me to get involved in something that was helping people out. But I was a little in over my head in some ways, and in my group home alone, there were 16 men, all adults, and all with very complex things going on. And it was a real time of learning and growth for me. And at the same time, I met a woman that was very influential on my journey. She was an artist and had two young girls who I had the privilege to babysit when I was in college. And we got an email one day, and her husband said that she was diagnosed with brain cancer, and could anyone help the family? And I said right away, well, I could do some nannying, and even though I was running the group home at the time too, but in your 20s, you can do everything, right? So, so I started to do some part-time nannying for her, and she was receiving energy work alongside of sort of more Western medicine. So she was combining Western medicine and Eastern medicine, and her diagnosis was really quite stark, but the Eastern medicine, the energy work, helped prolong her life significantly. And she bought me my first energy work session one Christmas in my early 20s. So I experienced that, and that first session really helped me so much. It was almost like the lights turned on in my body, and I felt this sense of peace that I hadn't felt prior to that. And I said, this is something, and so I started to study that modality, which is called Jinshin Jitsu. And I did that for 3 years. You take a 5-day course every year, and then you're certified. And so I just had this in the back of my mind as I'm running the group homes. And I'm starting to realize that there was a big disconnect in the way that I was supporting my clients and how I wanted to support my clients, right? Like I wanted to give them all these energy treatments. I started to feel the sense that I was outgrowing the field, and then eventually my nervous system burned out of that field. Like I just felt like overwhelmed by it. And they wanted me to then run 2 group homes at that point in time. And I decided to take a layoff, which was being offered because the system was getting transferred to new ownership at that time. So I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to take the layoff. And I went back to school for energy work because that was my love as I was starting to build that along. So I did, a huge training called polarity therapy, which was around 600 hours. And then it just kept going, and astrology found me, and crystal healing and all the things started to find me. And it just kind of naturally led to, my next step. And when I burned out and was able to heal myself with these modalities, that's again when the light bulbs just kept going off that I needed something different that more suited me. And the fact that I was sensitive and an empath and needed something where I could manage the energy of the space. So that's kind of what pivoted me into that new path. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how you found the bravery to kind of leave your job. But it sounds like
Mhm.
burnout was one factor, but really taking the leap and feeling called to these
Mhm.
different healing modalities and them healing you sounds like it was the perfect timing in your life as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It just all made sense, to me to start to step into that new role. And it really, it took me a few years to go full time into it. So I started my practice in 2009. And then by 2012, was when I could leave all my jobs behind and fully step in. So I built it, for a few years. But back then, that was even like a short amount of time for something as kind of esoteric as
Yeah.
energy work. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So once you kind of decided that this was your new path and you were leaving behind, the group homework, what steps did you take to really start building that foundation to be able to open your practice and your flowers and stars shop? And how did you decide what to offer?
Yeah, yeah, such a great question. So, I like to say that a lot of the work that I did to set up the foundation was actually energetic as well. So, for me, my philosophy is about 90 to 95% of creating like a self-led business is getting your mindset right.
Mm,
And I think the rest is the little details, like having nice branding and a
right.
website and online booking and all of that. So a lot of the work that I did was inner work, really, and sort of like clearing away what was in the way of me feeling like I could receive something like that, growing up for me, we didn't grow up with a lot of money or resources, and so I had to kind of clear a lot of family beliefs and patterns that were inside of me. And
Mm,
so I did a lot of that, and I emphasize that because I think a lot of times when I see people about to get into their own career, sometimes they get a little hyper focused on the perfect image, and that can really get you stuck because the truth is, as an entrepreneur, your image is probably going to change over time, right? And you're going to evolve, you're going to grow, you're going to learn new things about yourself. And I've shifted my brand name, my business name, probably like, 6, 8 times. I don't even know.
wow, really?
So, and then I finally came back to the Flowers and Stars shop, which was with me for a while. But prior to that, I was just exploring, and I feel like a little bit lucky that when I got into the work, Instagram wasn't even being really used as a business tool.
Yeah.
Facebook a little bit, but it was pretty new in that way. It was still kind of like just connecting with your friends and, posting what was going on in your day and pictures of your food and, stuff like that. It was the olden days. So it was really so much about relationship building and
Mm,
community connection. And so, I started posting about my energy work journey probably in 2008, 2009. I started to share my excitement for it. And literally for the past 16 years, I've been sharing, my journey. And so that was a big piece too, is like setting up that foundation where people knew what I was up to. And
mm.
I expressed excitement for it along the way. And I literally was excited. It wasn't even a marketing tool. It was just like, hey, oh my gosh, this is really awesome. This helped my friend. This helped this person. So sharing consistently. And then I would say my other big thing was connecting in with different communities in the area that were open to
Mm.
what I was up to, which, again, thankfully on the North Shore of Massachusetts, we have a lot of metaphysical stuff. Salem alone is such a hub,
Yeah.
but really in almost every town around here, we've got metaphysical shops and yoga studios and things like that. So luckily I was in a good area for it, and I started to offer little workshops and stuff at different spaces, and that started to build my reputation in the area too. So community connection super, super important too.
How did you overcome that fear and maybe any barriers to pursuing this path when, like you said, there wasn't really Instagram, there wasn't really Facebook as much?
One of my biggest fears was, am I going to burn out again? I'm going to get in this new field and am I going to do the same thing? And so just having that energetic support and knowing I could take care of myself in these ways has been such a gift. And I still do. I still get my polarity sessions, and I go to float tanks once a month and decompress, and that helps your nervous system release those worries and fears. Even massage is great for stuff like that too, which I don't think people realize, but all of that can be a good way for you to, somatically through your body kind of start to release whatever fears your mind is putting out there. Yeah.
Sounds like you've kind of found maybe like a balance or a routine. Is there anything that you kind of make sure that it's like a non-negotiable for you to kind of make sure that you are maintaining that balance of business energy versus the healer energy?
Yeah, definitely. So, my community knows I take a week off each month, which is
Nice.
something, yeah, that I implemented, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. And, part of it is that, I'm also creative. I love to write and I love to dream and just have kind of open space, empty space to kind of think. And so I met this coach out in California, and she said she did that. And I was like, I want that. I was like, I want to create that. And so she planted that seed of, she takes a week off and then she takes the whole month of December off, which I haven't done that yet. I haven't manifested that. But yeah, but I really just love that idea. So that's, something that I try to stay really consistent with. And I love to unplug too and just get off of social media, sometimes off my phone entirely, and just really be in the moment. And that tends to really restore my energy. And it was really hard at first, because I love to serve and I love to give back.
Mm,
So I'm like, what is my purpose when I'm just here, resting?
yeah.
For me, having help, having assistance is really important too. And I've had assistance for, I think, about the last 7 years or so, that can take on the things that I don't feel like doing, don't want to do, don't have time for, so that's another piece too that I highly recommend to people, is to have a virtual assistant or in-person assistant to support and to delegate as much as you possibly can.
Those are great tips, and definitely, I mean, we need to get better at giving ourselves some time off for absolutely no reason other than we deserve it. We need that time to recover.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure there are others that have similar interests and maybe knowledge bases that they would love to turn into a business, but they just have no idea maybe how to monetize it. I guess what advice would you give those that are
Yeah.
struggling to make revenue generating business?
There's like some common sense about it that mentors told me early on that I want to share. Like, for example, if you go to the grocery store, they're not going to give you your groceries for free, right? You have to pay for your groceries, and you have to pay for so much right now. I do dream of a world where we're money free and currency free, but we're not there yet. We're
Yeah.
probably not going to see that in our lifetime. So having, good price points for your offerings is important. And I love to share with my business students that, you know, it, the work that you offer is invaluable, right? You can't put a price tag on your soul and what you share in the world. But what you can put a price tag on is your time.
Yeah.
And what is your time worth? So there's all these things that you kind of have to take into consideration about what your time is worth, and then set your prices according to that, not according to what you're worth, because you're priceless, and sometimes that helps people kind of weed out some of
Mm.
their hesitancy or their confusion around that piece. And And don't be afraid to share, what you're up to with your community and share it on a regular basis. I think there's like a philosophy in marketing that it takes people like 7 times of
Right.
seeing
Yeah.
something, yeah, to buy, right? And so I just share it many times in multiple ways and see what happens, and don't base it on likes or anything like that because I've had posts where I had 6 likes, but I made $6,000 on one post. So,
Wow.
it's very much about your energy, and is your energy aligned? Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe in what you're doing? And can you radiate that out into the world? And if not, do more of that inner work, to help you excavate that. And those are a few things kind of popping into my mind. I hope that answered your
Yeah, no, that's
question.
such great advice. Definitely. You had mentioned to me when we had met that you put a lot of time and effort into your community. So I guess in this, overwhelming and noisy online world, how do you kind of make sure that your offerings that, your clients are finding you when they need you? And are there any strategies that you use?
It is about creating true community, like real community,
Yes.
not just sort of posting and then leaving everybody behind. Like it's a cultivation, it's a relationship that you're building. And a big part of how I've done that, I think, is consistency. Like I said, I've been sharing for 16 years, so people kind of got to know me over the years and throughout the community. And I put a very strong intention out at the very beginning of my practice. I said, you know what, universe, I want most of my practice to be word of mouth. And
Mhm.
that was a very strong intent that I held for many years, and it still ripples to this day. So, getting really clear on how you want your community to find you. And to this day, people often will tell me, oh, this person referred me, or this person referred me. And making sure that I then go and thank that person, or connect with that person is really important. I also do a lot of cross referral too. So, a naturopathic doctor is a great cross referral in my work for people to get deeper testing and get to know what's going on in their body. So, I constantly refer to this ND in my area, and not for any other reason, but because it's going to support my clients. But what's neat is that some of that has started to bounce back to me, right?
Yeah.
So really cultivating like local community connections, I think, is really important. And then when you're giving your services, be really present with your clients,
Mm.
just really connect with them. Make sure you're giving a very good service. I'll sometimes give 10 minutes beyond the service, or something like that, just to go above and beyond. But you can put your own little touches and spins on that. You can't really cut corners. It's you just got to really make sure that you're connecting with your people. So it's not just social media, it's in person, it's visiting spaces, it's referring people, it's all of those things. So, yeah, I know that might sound overwhelming to people, but
It sounds like really creating an engaged community is one, but also
mhm.
making sure that you're engaged still, right? For
Yes.
the long term. If you want a long term business, it sounds like you need to be a part of this community for the long term. I would love to hear a little bit more about kind of the services that you offer.
Yeah, I have a course I designed, I think maybe about 8 years ago, called Manifesting Your Magical Business. And it's about 8 weeks long. And it's kind of like soup to nuts how I created my business. And we
Mhm.
actually start with a lot of the inner work together. So we work with, people clearing belief systems that might be in the way of them stepping into their role as a magical business. A lot of folks I work with are, I find, either healing types or creative types, and a lot of them share similar sort of woundings and belief systems. So we really start there. And then, we do some social media strategy. We do, designing your ideal schedule together, and a lot of work around coming back into your body and what your body is saying you want for the next steps. One of my big philosophies that I share with my students is that your body is the holy grail. So it's like, it's going to tell you whether to stay in something, to go, to pivot. And it's all about having that courage, right, to release and move forward and find what's more aligned for you. So it's a pretty deep dive, and I usually have guest speakers and stuff come, but it's really it's a fun course. I usually run it live about once a year, but people can take it anytime as like a self-study as well. So
I
yeah.
love it. I love that it
Yeah.
balances the spiritual side of this journey, right? Becoming an
Yeah.
entrepreneur and deciding that this is your new path, but
Yeah.
also the tactical side of, like you said, some of the strategies that you
Mhm.
used. And it's easy to start a business and not to think about, hey, I really should show others how to do this as well. So
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I love seeing people empowered, and again, I think it moved faster for me because I got all that energetic alignment first, and then, now I'm getting my branding even better, as we go and stuff like that. But when I first started out, I was still more shy, in my business. And so even my colors were very muted and soft and like, and now with like flowers and stars, it's like bright pink, bright
Yeah.
green, So I grew as a person. And so I think that reflection also has to grow in some way too.
So, I guess if you had to start again today from
Mhm.
scratch, what
Mhm.
are the steps you would take to build
Mhm.
your business back all over again?
One thing I would have done differently is I would have gotten support even sooner.
Mm.
So I would have delegated even sooner. I remember, for example, I created like a little flower essence line, and I thought about it for like 2 years without knowing how to create labels, for my bottles. If I just asked for help like right away, that would have sped everything along. But once I did start to do that and I was ready to give up controls in my business, things started to really open up. So I think if I could start again, I would just ask for help whenever I needed it and then continue to build community in different ways. I think maybe I would have gone a little softer in how much I was doing, early on in my business. But I think over the years I've really learned to listen deeper and to listen to my feminine side and, kind of take more time, restful time for me. So but honestly, I would do things pretty similarly, I think, and really create those organic connections in my community. I've created this mindset that who's meant to see me will come and they'll come at the right time. And it's not my clients that are providing my flow of energy, it's the universe. So if I can just keep a really strong relationship with the universe, then what will come to me will find me. And so that's another thing that I would probably have just kept really always at the forefront too. So,
I see myself
mhm,
in exactly what you just said about the labels. I
mhm,
would definitely spin my wheels for months, if not years, on, well, I can't do this because I don't know how to do the labels.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
Maybe do you have any advice on
Yeah.
how to find people to ask for
Mhm,
help? Or you mentioned virtual assistants and
mhm,
things like that. How do you find people that also align with your
mhm,
business and your brand and make sure that these are people
mhm.
that
Yeah.
you feel you can trust with delegating these things?
Yeah, yeah. So, a couple things I'll say, especially when people are first starting out, I would do very low cost things so that it didn't feel like a risk to me. So, for example, I might go on Etsy, for example, and Etsy has all these graphic designers on there, which I only learned like a few years ago. But, you can go on and you can look at different designs and how people do things and what resonates with you. So that's a great
Nice.
way to just kind of shop through and figure out what you want, but it's not going to break your bank, right? So even if they get it wrong, you can just try again with somebody else, whereas I think, again, sometimes people get caught in this, the branding has to be so perfect. And then they spend thousands of dollars on something that's really disappointing, and then it just blocks them. So for me, I think it's like start cheap, start small, build as you go, because again, your brand's probably going to change. You'll get more money later on to change it, so just start easy. I've used Fiverr a few times and I've had good luck with it. But you also, when you're using these platforms and these forums, you have to be open to speaking up for what you want until you're
Mm.
happy with the product, which for me, when I first started, I did not have that confidence. And now I do, where I can say, oh, can you change that or change this? And so you really, but those of you just starting out, please have the confidence to say that you like something or don't like something and keep refining it till you find what you need. Yeah.
Yeah, I like you said, you might not have the money today, but maybe further
Yeah.
down the line, you have the money to invest and make it
Yeah.
actually done right. But, might as well
Yeah.
just do what you can today.
Yeah,
So if
exactly.
someone is interested in learning about flowers and stars or
Mhm.
connecting with you for consultation,
Mhm.
classes, or maybe to attend one of your amazing community events,
Mhm.
where can they find more information?
Our Instagram is great. So we have flowersandstars.shop. People could find us there. And then I also have my personal business one, which is just under Grace Harrington Murdoch with a CH at the end. And our website is www.flowersandstarsshop.com. So that's a great place to find, all of our current events and all of that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Grace, for all of your time answering all my questions. And I think some really good takeaways is to kind of dedicate your time to building your community along the way, bootstrapping as you can, figuring it out. Don't be afraid to rebrand yourself, to pivot so that it feels like it aligns with what you are trying to do and where you want to go in life.
I think you summarized it so well. So thank you so much, Elaine. It's been such a joy. So,
Thank
yeah.
you.